So I'm here to talk about aquaculture, which is something that you might not have thought about, but it plays quite a big role in everyone's lives if you eat fish. Our seafood consumption in 2013, 177 grams per person per week, not that much. But when you add it up to a lot of people, it's a lot of fish, and we always think, there's plenty more fish in the sea, and what we eat is just drop in the ocean, but is that actually the truth? And that's something that we think about daily. This just shows us how aquaculture is playing a role in the food we eat. The blue is capture fisheries, so that shows that capture fisheries basically recently have dropped off and aquaculture is growing massively. And what is aquaculture? It's not agriculture. Every time I mention aquaculture to somebody, they say, "Oh, agriculture." It's not. It's not land animals. It's fish. It's shellfish. It's also seaweeds, and these are some of the things that you'll be eating day to day, and you might not know come from aquaculture. We've got sea bass, bream, shrimp, trout. All these come from around Europe. The shrimp will come from Southeast Asia. We've got salmon that come from the UK, mussels will come from the UK. It's actually a mussel farm in the Swansea docks, you might not know. Tilapia come from Africa, Southeast Asia, and we've got turbot, halibut as well, also farmed. So quite a lot of the fish that you eat, you might not realise are actually coming from farms. This is just showing the massive increase in fish production from aquaculture. The fish are actually in blue, but it's over 300% increase in production. So I want to bust a few myths about aquaculture. One, feeding fish to fish is a waste of resources. It's not. It's very efficient. The feed conversion ratio is how much you need to feed to something to make it a kilo. So you feed it 1 kilo to make another kilo. Myth two, aquaculture is inevitably bad for the environment. It's not, because we're working towards reducing FCR, so we're working towards making it more sustainable. And there's also strict rules, and RAS is something we're looking at now. Freshwater use for aquaculture is high. RAS, again, very highly water efficient, so we don't use much water. Biofloc is no water use. And actually 70% of global freshwater supplies go to agriculture, so fish farming is actually a small part of global water use. Farmed fish full of antibiotics. We now have very highly efficient vaccines, and there's a big drive to reduce all chemical use, and these are two species that we use to reduce chemical use by eating parasites. RAS that I've mentioned is recirculating aquaculture system. Basically it's like a fish tank at home, but it's very efficient. You don't need to put many things in to keep them clean. This is actually my farm in Madagascar that I used to run. Some pros of RAS: low environmental impacts, low water use, high biosecurity, year-round production, and you can always do it close to the market. So we're actually talking about a big shrimp farm in Bagan, which would produce shrimp that you'd normally buy from Southeast Asia. Some of the bad things is the high running cost, and it can be a big impact on on whether something works or it doesn't work. But is there a way of making RAS, which is, in my opinion, the future of fish farming, a more affordable and sustainable solution to produce fish that we eat? And the answer is resounding yes. And one of the big things that's important in this and going forward is something that we're going to be looking at is co-location, which is locating one industry near to another one. To use and share resources, which makes a lot of sense, but doesn't happen very often. And how can it help? Reduce the cost of energy use, reducing the cost of waste remediation, so that's cleaning the water and getting rid of the waste, and adding income streams to a business, so that to make something more sustainable. In terms of energy, we can put it next to a factory or power station producing heat, so we can produce tropical shrimp, for example. Waste remediation, AD digestion, so that's digesting it to make methane, and then that feeds back into the energy thing, so we can get a circular economy there. And another thing is aquaponics. So we've got traditional and decoupled. So basically, the traditional is just stick some plants in a fish tank, and the second one is trying to develop something which is a bit more sustainable. And the thing we all have to do as fish farmers and as scientists is to keep our fish happy, and as meat producers worldwide, that's what we have to do. So, so hopefully we're doing that in our little parts, in our work and in our research. So just to make you think about where your food comes from, basically. Thank you.